Okay, this is part 2 of your Chapter 7 notes, and I went into the driver class and I typed a line of code. Basically, I created a new dog. I called it D1, and I sent it 3 arguments. Its name, what sound it makes, and whether or not it can fetch. And I want to show you what happens when I run the driver now. I just constructed a dog, and I want to show you what happens here. When this happens, first thing that happens is it makes a pet object. Why? Well, because a dog is a pet. So in order for a dog to be a pet, the pet object has to be made. Next, it made a dog object. Now, technically, these are the same object. They're just kind of combined together. Java knows they're the same object. It's not 2 separate objects. But why did that work? Well, when I ran the dog constructor, first thing I had to do was run the constructor from the superclass. The superclass is pet, and then the pet class, it runs, hey, made a pet object. Okay, now on the next line here, I'm going to show you that we can run any of the methods in the pet class from the dog class. So I'm going to run something from the dog class, d1.speak. Well, what is d1.speak? Well, d1 is a dog, and it's going to run the speak method. But if I look in dog, hey, there is no speak method here. Fortunately, because it's a subclass, a dog inherits everything from the pet class. So in the pet class, I wrote a speak method. What does the speak method do? Well, it just gets the sound and gives me back the sound. So if I run in the constructor d1.speak, it should just say bark there. And I'm going to go ahead and compile that and run it. There it is. It says bark. Okay, just so I start to separate things, I'm going to put a print line in here. And I'm going to copy all this code twice and paste it twice because I want to make a cat. And my cat's called Garfield. And it says meow. And is it declawed? No, I think that's cruel, so I'm going to put false there. And then I want my cat to speak. Then my third thing is a fish. The fish says, I don't know, blub. And what was it in the fish? It was tank is clean. Well, we're going to keep that as true because we want to make sure the tank is clean. There. So I'm going to run this driver. And look, when I made a cat, it made a pet first. When I made a fish, it made a pet first. And then I called the bark method. It told it to bark, or called the speak method. And the dog barked, the cat meowed, and the fish blubbed. Okay, a couple more things. The next thing I want to talk about is called polymorphism. Polymorphism. And basically means many different types. And we already have polymorphism here. We have many different types, well, 3 different types of pets. And the beauty of this is that we can now make array lists or arrays that hold 3 different types of things or 10 different types of things. Now, we know from the past, if I was going to make an array list of type cat, I could only put cats in there, right? And if I would make an array list of type dog, I could only put dogs in it. If I were going to make an array list of type fish, I could only put fish in it. But now we have a way, if I make an array list type pet, there's now a way to put all three of these items in the same array list. I think that is great, a great way to hold different types of items. And again, this is called polymorphism. So I'm just going to call it my pets equals new. We're going to compile now. We get an error because we're missing the import, so I'm going to scroll up here and put the import in. java.util.arraylist. I guess array list has a capital in it. Sorry about that. Each of these has a capital. I knew that when I typed it. But now the great thing is I can go to my pet list, my pets, and I can add a dog. Well, that was D1. Or I can add a cat. That was C1. I can add a fish. That's F1. So I can put all these different things in my array list. Now I'm going to write a for each loop to print it out. So I'm going to write for each pet in the array list called my pets. Oops, I did this wrong. For each pet that I'm going to call temp in the array list called my pets. That's how it goes. I just want to print out each pet. So system.out.print line temp. So it's going to go through my list, and the first time it's going to print out the dog, and then a cat, and then the fish. Now this only works. I can only print an object if there is a toString. Now of course, we should remember that when we're creating the class, the pet class has a toString. And it gets the name and says how it speaks. So let's go ahead and run this now. Fido says bark, Garfield says meow, and Sparkles says blub. Okay, a couple more things here. I'm going to make a subclass of one of these classes, actually dog here. So I'm going to go new class. That's going to be my loud dog. I'm going to move it down here so you can see it better. And I'm going to type all the code. Public class loud dog extends dog. Remember, when we're creating a class, we need instance variables. Well, my loud dog is a dog. It's not going to have any extra instance variables, so I'm just going to move to the next thing, which is the constructor. So that would be public loud dog. And I want my loud dog to be created the same way a dog is created. And the dog is created with 3 instance variables right there. I'm just going to copy that. So there's those 3 instance variables, and the great thing is I have to do the same thing I did here. I have to make a call to super, but this time I'm going to send it 3 items because my constructor here has all 3 items. I can send it name, I can send it sound, and I can send it can fetch. I also want it to say made a loud dog here, so made a loud dog object. I'm going to go ahead and compile that. And the reason I made a loud dog class is I wanted to show you something called overriding methods. And it's this. What if my loud dog speaks differently than any of these other animals? And I needed to write a complete separate method. Well, you can do that. You just come in and you notice that the pet method has this speak. Well, you just write the same thing down here. So you'd write public string speak. And this is called method overriding. I'm rewriting this other method. And what I wanted to do, this is a loud dog. So instead of speaking once, I wanted to speak twice. So I'm going to have it return super dot speak plus a space plus super dot speak. Now we're learning 2 things about super here. Super in the constructor and super with parentheses is a call to the constructor. We've seen that a couple times now. You can also use super dot. Super dot lets you go 1 class up and only 1 class up, and with the dot operator run any of the methods that are there. Well, if I go up 1 method, it's the dog class. The dog inherits this speak method, so I can run super dot speak and super dot speak again. So basically this would say bark bark if it was if it spoke bark there. Okay, let me go back to the driver, and I'm going to add another pet here. So I'll go my pets.add, and in parentheses I can just add a new loud dog, and his name is Butch. He says woof. And does he fetch? Yes, he fetches. So I'm going to put a print line right here. So this is perfectly legal. Why? Because my pets is an array list that holds pets. Is a loud dog a pet? Yes. A loud dog is a pet. A loud dog is a dog, but a dog is a pet. So a loud dog is also a pet. Okay, so at this point I'm just going to run my driver. And I just wanted you to see that Butch, who was my loud dog, says woof woof. It basically barked twice because I changed this method to make it bark twice. Also take a look at when it was created. First it made a pet, then it made a dog, and then it made a loud dog object. Okay, this is the end of part 2. We're going to move on to part 3 next of your notes. So go ahead and look for that video.